Welcome back to Chiefs fans before we were cool.
Yeah, welcome, welcome. We are working on um I feel like we're both so qualified to do this podcast. Um so that's important.
Yeah,
Yeah, no. Really cool time to be a Chiefs fan, cheering them on. Random fact of the day. I randomly at a park met a friend of the assistant running backs coach for the Chiefs.
okay.
Yeah,
That's pretty fun.
yeah. Um, so that and being connected. Well, yeah. So pretty fun little connection and little chat. That
Yeah,
was pleasant
that's a
as you
fun.
want.
Mm.
And so I talked about it a little bit, and then Chris went. Then sorry, Chris. Isaac went running off, and we just ran around in the forest and some of the trees in the area for a while. So
Mm. Sounds like a
it
good time.
sounds like a great time.
I don't think Isaac
Uh,
was too impressed by meeting that person, though.
no,
Probably didn't really stick with him.
no, he does. He does like football though. He is a big football guy. So
Mm. Raising him
we
right.
uh, we're certainly fans there.
That's
Yeah,
cool, though.
but yeah, yeah, you find people everywhere connected. So, but the Chiefs won again.
Yeah,
I
pretty handedly.
pretty handily. I was pretty confident in that game actually. I played Mahomes in my fantasy, but I mean he didn't get any points because Kareem Hunt went berserk.
Yeah,
But he actually, well, he saved me actually in that he got a 33-yard run and then he ended up getting that 1 yard touchdown. So thank you, Mahomes. You're the man.
yep, yep. He is the man, all right. And honestly, like. We've talked about like, is he trying to do too much or whatever? But I think the big part of the thing is like, I'd remind myself this week, we put up a good amount of points
Yeah.
against a team when all of the receivers on our roster
Hmm.
would at best be a number three receiver on almost any other team.
Yeah.
And so like the fact that we're doing that, like of course his passing numbers aren't going to look as good. I mean though,
No.
like let's just say like Hardman had a heck of a
Yeah.
game. Like he was like, "Hey, I'm not only going to contribute in the Super Bowl." Um, but seriously, it's like we put up it's 28 at the end, right? 28
Hmm.
18, 28 points against a team that's known for good defense.
Yeah.
They're banged up, but again, any of our wide receivers go to another team, they're third or fourth man on
Yep.
and so like it's crazy.
Andy Reid makes the most out of them, takes,
Hmm.
and I think we made some good adjustments. I like that we did a lot of the um, outside runs
Yeah.
with McCall and other people. So that was good. And then Kareem just keeps getting the yards he needs. I think something I heard that I thought was a helpful point is he's not getting a lot of yards per carry, but that's because a lot of his runs are getting the first down, like a two or three on
Yeah.
third down. And so you can't you're not really the efficiency metrics, like it's a successful run. He's not getting a lot of explosive plays, but he's also 29 years old and
Yeah.
carrying the ball like 500 times. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, this season
mhm.
feels like it's the Chiefs reunion tour,
Yeah,
right? Like Hunt's back. Obviously, Hardman we got back last year, but then like it just feels like Juju Smith-Schuster is just like this is Chiefs reunion tour. Honestly, before the big news of this week that we're going to talk about, when I saw that he was dropped, I was like, MVS is going to end up back on our team. Like I thought that was going to happen, and I
I
was just
know.
like,
I
it's the
kind of
Chiefs
thought that
reunion
would
tour,
happen too.
but um. And here's the other thing. I mean, we should talk more about the specifics of this game. This was a game to me that I knew we could win, but it was also like we beat them every year in the Super Bowl. We play them. wouldn't be
Hmm.
surprised if we lose a regular season game.
Yeah.
Um, Besides random division stuff that can sometimes happen, there's only really two games left against teams this season that I think like are team games we could lose, like realistically. I mean, obviously NFL anything can happen.
So you're thinking the Bills?
The Bills, and I don't think we would lose to the Steelers, but I could see that being one of those games that we just
Yeah.
randomly drop.
I'm pretty sure we're going to drop one of those games in that
Yeah.
kind of gauntlet where you have all those games in that small compressed area.
Hmm.
I think the Steelers is a good candidate for that. The way they're
Yeah.
playing, their defense is playing is
Yep. Their defense
lights
is
out.
playing good. Now, I think if they beat us, it'll be like a one score affair
Yeah.
that they beat us by because I don't imagine their offense being electric against our defense either.
Hmm.
Um, but other than that, like honestly, like, and I also think like depending on, we might lose the last game of the season because if we don't have anything to play for, you know,
Hmm.
um, then, but it's like other than that, like we are through the hardest part of our schedule by far,
Hmm.
which is kind of nice. Big fan.
Big fan. Yeah, no, I am surprised that we are 6-0. So good job, Chiefs. Good job, Andy Reid. Mahomes has done enough, has been good in clutch moments, even though he's made some mistakes.
Hmm.
Um, it's always hard to know exactly what all goes into those interceptions and things.
Yeah. Or even like the
His
interception
interceptions
this
this
week.
game were,
Yeah.
well, I guess one was underthrown. That was probably on him, the end zone one.
Yeah. But then the
Um,
one where the receiver fell down, like it's probably
yeah.
close to a 50-50 ball, but the receiver
Oh,
fell
right. No, no,
down.
never mind. Because he had the tip one
Yeah.
that maybe is partially his fault, and then he had the one. Sorry, I'm mixing up
Yeah.
interceptions. There've been a lot this year. A lot this year. Now, some of them aren't his fault, and I think it'll get cleaned up. But anyway, we'll see if the big news receiver
Yeah.
could be a part of that. But yeah, I think just thinking of last week's game, the defense is still super elite. Very happy with how they're playing. Chris Jones is playing way better than his stats might suggest. Like his
Hmm.
pressure rate is off the charts. Um, I think I kind of said I was a little surprised he got Defensive Player of the Week or AFC or something like that. Um, but he really is making a
Yeah.
statement.
And not
Um,
that those other guys don't do well, but it's like every time I see Karlaftis gets a sack, I think it's probably because Chris Jones was being double teamed.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's the nature of it.
yeah. Oh. Defense continues to stop the run, stifle it
Hmm.
against a good running offense. And Jordan Mason was probably a little banged up, but
Yeah.
still, like, we just destroyed their concepts. Brock
Hmm.
Purdy got confused, so we were playing a lot of stuff. Now, our losing our defensive back, Jalen Watson, I think is going to be a big deal. Um,
Yeah.
so that is a pretty big. He was playing like 100% of snaps. He was like in the game, all the defensive plays. Um, Part of how we were still able to keep that, you know, elite pass coverage stay up without luxurious needs contributions.
Yeah.
So it's
Maybe the Titans will trade him to us. So
yeah, trade him back.
yeah.
Just eat all his salary. Yeah. But I think those were strong. Were there any other standout players for you? I think we've hit on most of the
Well,
ones.
I mean, to me, like obviously it was great to see Hardman contribute so meaningfully. Um Noah Gray, I think, has been playing really well too. Gets a lot of those receptions where you'd expect it to be Kelsey, but Kelsey's getting all the focus. Um,
Hmm.
I actually I had to listen to the game on the radio this week because we were traveling. So but it helps me stay alert when driving and I can listen to football.
Hmm.
Um, but obviously the big news of the week, Hopkins coming to KC. The Chiefs actually tried to sign him when he was leaving the Cardinals, and the Titans outbid us. And I haven't seen the finalized thing. I saw when the deal was being finalized, but it appears that in part of the deal, the Titans are actually still paying some of his salary
Oh, really?
for the year. That's
Oh,
at
yeah, yeah, yeah.
least
Hmm.
and so I'm surprised. I'm very happy. I'm surprised another team would do this, especially for a fifth round pick that could become a fourth round pick. I don't know
Hmm.
the stipulations on that exactly. Again, I haven't read a bunch of that. Mostly, I'm
Hmm.
surprised because this seems like the kind of trade that usually the Buffalo Bills give us rather than anyone else, you know? So,
They traded for Amari Cooper just to trade him to us.
yeah, yeah, for real. Um, so obviously, I'm pumped about this. Everybody else I know who's not a Chiefs fan is annoyed that the Titans, like some people are saying the Titans just became the second most hated team in the NFL. Uh,
That's pretty funny.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, so yeah, fifth rounder, sixth rounder. Um, I was trying to see that information. They just say they eat some of it. They don't say exactly how much.
yeah,
But I think that's a big part of it. So like there's a couple other wide receivers out there going around, right? Obviously, Mari Cooper goes to Bills. Um, so that was one domino to fall. Um, we had, sorry, Mari Cooper. Who's the other one traded, wide receiver traded?
it was Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams. That's really bad. Going to the Jets. Um, so both for third round picks, and then DeAndre Hopkins for a fifth, maybe a fourth, if everything goes well.
Yeah.
Um, that's a good
Do
price. That's
you?
what that's what the Chiefs Beach was going to pay. I kind of wished it was going to be Cooper Cup, but I'm also just kind of a big Cooper Cup truther. I just think he's so fun. But he gets injured a lot, and there's just a lot of guaranteed money for the next 2 years for Cooper Cup. So a
Yeah,
second round pick in combination with that kind of salary you're paying is just a lot for an injured receiver. And so I think they talked about it. I don't think the Rams were going to eat enough of the salary. And so I think it made the most sense for um, them to go the
yeah.
route of DeAndre Hopkins. So,
And
how do you feel about him as an addition? Do you think he's a huge upgrade?
I
Like,
mean, I feel like okay, so obviously, he's not. If you have him 5 years ago, you think like, oh man, this is like the greatest thing that's ever happened.
yeah,
You know, I'll still say from what I've read, like part of the reason his stats have been so poor this year is because of the Titans quarterback
yeah,
situation. Like I've read this that he still actually wins 50-50s significantly,
hmm
like a significant portion of the time. So he benefits from a quarterback that will throw in tight coverage. I've also read a lot that he is still really winning in hot routes within the first 10 yards. Um,
hmm
and so I think he's a huge upgrade. Obviously, I think like our wide receiver room, like Hardman and Worthy have a lot of upside. But I also think the floor can be pretty low with them in any given game. And then
yeah,
I think our next receiver is Justin Watson, who is like you're like in a big game, he's going to make one or two really big catches, and he's not going to do anything the rest of the game. You
yeah,
know, so he's a
yeah,
huge upgrade in my opinion.
yeah,
And I'm sure he's excited because this is his best shot to get a ring in the
yeah,
last in his last few years of his career.
yeah,
Um, so I know what are your thoughts?
yeah. So, let me say what Brother Wonders. I forgot to bring him up at the beginning
Okay.
of the thing, but they addressed this. So you kind of just answered, what do you think D Hop brings to the Chiefs? And you kind of explained that. And I agree. I think his per route stuff is really good. I think now the only thing I wonder is how much we're going to use him in the way that he's best used, like contested catches, because Mahomes just doesn't throw those very often. But he's also never had a receiver like DeAndre Hopkins,
Mhm.
so that kind of counteracts this like stuff. But I think the biggest advantage to having D-Hop is exactly what you mentioned, which is the hot routes, the easy completions, the Juju Smith-Schuster role that he played until he got injured. Like we just need that. They're not really. I think it's kind of dumb when people say he's playing the Rashee Rice role. It's not really like Rashee Rice did his own role. It was unique to him, but that kind of safety valve, giving us a consistent option for moving chains, and that allows McCole Hardman to get some long throw maybe, or hopefully Xavier Worthy will get going towards the end of the year. Um, and that's going to make it a lot of
Yeah.
fun, hopefully. Again,
And
I'm just crossing my fingers. I just want
yeah.
Mahomes to have a fun year, and I don't think we will because we're so defensively good, and we don't take risks if we don't need to as a team, which is smart. I'd rather be 6-0 and my fantasy team lose the rest of the season. Just keep winning. But I do think it would just be fun to have some of that, and maybe DeAndre Hopkins helps us get a little bit of that.
Yeah. And I'll
Plus
say,
improvement from Xavier Worthy.
yeah, because that's the thing. I think Xavier Worthy, he's just got to learn once he gets more comfortable in the offense, more comfortable running different
Mhm.
routes. I'll say Mahomes has thrown more contested balls deep this season, like to Worthy. And
Oh, that's
what
true.
I have found is that in a jump ball, Worthy doesn't tend to do well 50-50. But if he gets a step on someone, like he's obviously
Mm.
got good hands, he's just not really good at necessarily fighting for the ball. I still think of that one pass he caught for a touchdown where he was pass interference was being committed against him as he caught. I was like, man. Um, but yeah, and obviously, like if he, you know, Hopkins is a big upgrade in my opinion, but also like if we do get Brown back for playoffs, then
Mhm.
suddenly we go from having a pretty lackluster wide receiver room to like a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Juju probably will be back at some point too. And then
yeah,
suddenly you have a bunch of old guys. Well, Marquise Brown's not very old, but
yeah.
and neither is Juju, but Juju's got old heart, old knees.
Old knees,
Um,
same
so the other
Juju.
question, Brother Wonders, is why do you think it was so cheap as it was? I'm gonna say two things. One, if you think of Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper playing really good, a little younger, um, they went for third rounds. So that's your starting point. DeAndre Hopkins has an injury that he sustained. Now he can play through it. I don't think the hamstring was real. I think that was like, we're about to trade you, so we don't want you to get hurt, so we don't, whatever. But the Devontae Adams also had a hamstring injury, and then suddenly is fine when he goes to the Jets. Um, so I think the that also bakes into the cost,
Yeah,
and it really like the market's set by other teams. So you already had
yeah.
lost two teams that wanted a wide receiver. So
Hmm.
suddenly it's like you start at third round, but if there's not that many people left that are buying DeAndre Hopkins at this point in his career, then you take the best deal available. I think the Chiefs also maybe somewhat were inclined to do it. This is kind of a weird thing, but it's like the Titans feel gonna feel good because they get some of their draft capital back from the L'Jarius Sneed trade,
Yeah,
which has not worked for them so far. And we get a receiver that we need. So,
yeah.
and
And is
the
this the
Titans aren't
last
getting
year?
anywhere with Will Levis
Yeah,
and Mason Rudolph. So
yeah. They get a start on a rebuild. Is this the last year on Hopkins' contract, or is it?
this is the this is the yeah, that's the other thing with Hopkins. I should know that. I knew how much
Because
Cooper
like
had.
part of the reason that Devonte Adams, for example, is at third round when you could argue he's very talented, is that he's also expensive, right? So the team that's signing him is also taking on a huge financial commitment. Um, it's kind of like if if
Yeah.
the Vikings sold Jefferson, you think, well, Jefferson, you should get a first round for, except for that whoever takes him, it's so much money, right?
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, did you figure out if is it the last year
Yeah,
on?
it is the last year.
So
So
yeah, so
that's
you
another
get
reason.
something for him instead of nothing.
Yep.
Um, and so I think that's
We can
a
always
big part
extend
of
them
it.
for a certain amount if it works out really well.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's a no-brainer for him, obviously, right? Like you're in
Yeah.
a, he's obviously like not like it's funny talking about NFL players like they're really
Yeah.
old, like,
Oh,
but
that's true.
yeah, but
Mhm.
like it's as good of a chance as he's got to win a ring. Um, and to also really be a focal point of the offense. Like
Yeah.
he's not getting traded somewhere where he's going to be lost in the crowd necessarily.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Now here's
And
an
I mean, he
interesting
got a
thought.
thousand yards last year with Will
Yeah.
Levis.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. That's like, I mean, I don't know what the conversion ratio is, but I'm pretty sure that's 4,000 with Mahomes, right? That's how that works. um,
so anyway, those were good points on that. N Next question. What do you think is the biggest key in order for us to keep winning games? Unless you had more to say about Hopkins.
no, no,
I don't think I
that's
really
fine.
do.
Um, Honestly, I think the key is to keep playing good defense and to
Hmm.
limit our turnovers.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we've won a lot of games where we turn over the ball way too many times.
Way too many times.
Um, but I think like if you limit mistakes, our
Yeah. Hmm.
defense makes it really hard for the other team to do really well. And so I think that's going to be the key. Um, I also think one thing we're doing now that we obviously is newer to the Chiefs in the last couple of years is time of possession game, just long sustained drives that just
Yeah.
chew away the clock. Obviously, it's fun when we get like a big play that like scores immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we can, honestly, I don't even think like we have to win the turnover deficit as long as we go even with most teams. I think
Hmm.
we're going to be fine. We
Yep.
just it making it harder on ourselves if we keep turning it over too many times.
Yep.
What about you?
Yep. No, I was defense 100%. I was gonna start clapping defense. Defense. So there we go. Uh, and then the definitely turnovers was the other thing that my mind jumped to for sure. I think the offense, if we want to keep winning, meaning like go all the way, our offense needs to get better though. Like the dink and dunking, we've seen that. We've seen teams kind of do that and get far. I think we did that last year, kind of, but again, these people are not Rishi Rice.
Hmm.
Rishi Rice was so good after the catch, like Debo Samuel good, right?
Yeah.
We can't expect to have that same success with that same offense, even with a
Hmm.
good defense in the postseason. I don't think we can do that. And I know we hit another gear last year, and you think of different players. So I really do think it actually matters if Marquise Brown gets back. I think it matters if Juju gets healthy. It matters if Xavier Worthy gets better because I think we can coast through the regular season. Maybe we lose now like three more games, right? At this point,
Hmm.
uh, that would like make sense. Get the first week bye. Good, 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 good. Mostly because it helps people get healthy and gives us another bye week before the
Hmm.
playoffs. So I think for us to keep winning, our offense does need to take a step forward, but it really is going to be carried on the back of our defense and avoiding turnovers. Um, yep. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking too, like the options of things we have once Pacheco comes back too, with how Hunt's been playing, like,
yeah,
you know, and both of them can run routes and play,
yeah,
catch the ball too. So like, man,
yeah. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
yeah.
I'm a little suspicious of Hunt lasting very long with this current workload. So I hope Pacheco gets back soon so we can have them
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, wait, did you have any more Brother Wonders?
yeah, last one.
Okay.
If you could change our mascot with any team, what would you change it with? Which mascot?
Like any other NFL team?
Yeah, I would. We'll stick to NFL team, sure. Yep,
Hmm.
yep. It's in the league, so.
Do you have an answer already for that?
No.
Nothing jumps out to me.
Dude, I
Um,
just wish we had something as classy as the Steelers. That's what I wish.
hmm,
I just think that's so cool. And again, I don't mind Chiefs or whatever, but I just think that's kind of a fun, like pretty cool name to have
yeah,
something so tied to your city.
yeah. So like if ours like we could change like the Kansas City barbecue or something like that.
The Kansas City barbecues.
Or like the fountain, you know.
I mean
Tornadoes feels too
I
on
mean
the
that is
nose.
technically connected if we think of like Wichita and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Well,
And
and Kansas City's called the City of Fountains. It's got
yeah, the
so
Kansas City Fountains.
um I hope obviously this isn't answering the question, but someday when Mahomes retires, I just hope we become the Kansas City Mahomes. Like but I don't know. I'm not there's nothing else that really sticks out to me. I mean, I think the idea if like there's two routes to go, like the funny kind of cheesy mascot like we have
hmm
now, or like you like, oh, a Viking is kind of a cool thing. Like,
Yeah, Vikings are
but
really cool.
obviously Kansas City Vikings was like weird. Like, huh. Didn't know they made
Mm.
it that far inland.
Okay, here's an idea.
Okay.
This feels kind of unique and maybe kind of fun. I don't know if it's really connected to Kansas City, like I was talking about before. But what if we were the Kansas City Cadillacs?
Mm,
I'm
mm,
just I'm just tired of all the animals and the random stuff.
yeah. And then you could do it
Let's be
like,
Cadillacs.
yeah,
Mahomes is our Cadillac.
yep, the Kansas City
We
Cadillacs.
cruising. We cruising, baby, right through the regular
Yeah,
season.
cruising.
6-0. 6-0.
Why don't we just do if we three-peat
Read
the
it and weep.
Kansas
Read it
City
and weep, other
champs?
teams.
Just Kansas City champs if we three-peat.
Kansas City jumps.
Um, okay, so here's a question that I just thought of for you. So do you think like with the trading of Vontae Adams, do you think the Raiders are thinking of this as like a rebuild? Um,
If they aren't, they should be.
yeah, and so here's my follow-up question.
Yeah.
What do you think the odds are that Crosby is traded before the deadline?
I feel like sometimes with players like that, though, you just want to keep them
Yeah,
because it's like, yes, you're in a rebuild, and yes, you might get some good money for them. I just think it sets you back as an organization too far.
yeah,
Um, I don't
yeah,
know.
that's true.
I think it would be a fine move to make, but like, unless you're getting something like, I'm trying to think of some of the big defensive players in the past. Well, Khalil Mack. Like he got when he first got traded a lot of money. I think that was from the Raiders too,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah, that.
some a return like that. I think he got like a first round, second round. Like if you can get some big return like that, then you pull the plug. You just do it. Um, because especially if you're trading it to like a bad team, that's what I think people should be doing. They should trade their really good players to a bad team because your picks are going to be better.
Yeah, yeah,
So like sell somebody that is like seems like they could be good but aren't. You know, the Panthers were really hyped up this year.
hmm,
Go go talk to them at the
yeah,
beginning of the year. I mean, not now at this point because now they're selling,
yeah,
but like give them that. It's what the Chicago Bears did to the Panthers. Just
hmm,
rinse and repeat. You know, those there's a history of deals like
yeah.
that being really good.
Well, it's kind of funny
Um,
to remember just a slight trip down memory lane. As the Chiefs were the team to beat in the AFC, we lost
mhm,
Tyreek Hill,
mhm.
and so then the Broncos paid all this money for Russell Wilson,
Yeah.
and the Raiders paid all this money for Devontae Adams. In the
hmm
offseason, everyone said, we don't think the Chiefs are going to win the division this year. And now neither of those players still plays for those teams. Although, to be fair, the Broncos are still paying Russell Wilson a lot of money. So
hmm
it's almost like he plays for them, except for he's on
They're writing the checks.
yeah. But it's though neither of those trades worked out for
No,
those teams.
they did not.
Um, so
And I think that was people said it was tied to the Chiefs Yes, but I think it was also tied to the fact that the Rams won that year
Mhm.
with the Stafford trade. They got a better quarterback and it took them over the top. And so I think the Broncos tried to copy that. It's like people get
Yeah,
paid so much money, but they have so little original thought. They're like, wait, what's working now? Oh, trading for a good quarterback. It's like there's so many other factors that contributed to
yeah,
the Rams winning. Like one of them being the Bengals coming back from a pretty big deficit and beating the Chiefs. Like
yeah,
like if the Chiefs get in there, I don't know if the Rams win there. It would at
yeah,
least been pretty fun to
yeah.
watch.
Well, and like, what was I gonna say? Is uh, the the other thing about those teams is like, so you have the Rams situation.
Hmm.
Oh man, the thought was there and then it's gone. And it was so insightful. You just have to believe me. That was like, man, it was gonna like
So you're talking about
blow
the
your mind.
Rams,
Yeah.
Stafford, Cooper Cup, they're old now and they're so top
Yeah.
heavy they can't do anything because they have no picks. Whereas the Chiefs keep some of our picks.
Yeah. I can't remember what it is. It's gone.
People should just be like us. Draft the right quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, this is what it was. Is part of the problem is like, the Broncos, they picked up Peyton Manning and they got a Super
Mhm.
Bowl for it. Now the ironic thing about that, in my opinion, is actually the year that they won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, I
Mhm.
think was one of his worst years in his career
Yeah,
as quarterback. Before
yeah,
that, he had some really good ones, even with the Broncos. But since then, they had really been trying what the Chiefs tried for a long time is let's get a quarterback that's good on other teams. Um,
yeah.
they tried some things with like Osweiler or Drew Lock, but then they're like, no, why would we draft a guy when we could just find an old guy who's, we could pick up who did another team doesn't want him anymore.
Well,
And
now they have
they're
Bo Nix,
now they have
and
Bo
Bo Nix they
Nix.
trust.
Yeah,
I don't know. I actually don't mind them picking him and playing the way they have. They're kind of bringing him along in a way
hmm
that keeps their team moving. And their defense is just elite.
yeah,
So it's not the Broncos, honestly. The Chargers and the Broncos have turned a corner. The Raiders have not turned a corner.
yeah.
They are still very sad.
Yeah.
Of
Well,
course, now that I've said that, they're going to beat us, and I'm going to be really mad. But I don't think
but
so. I
not
think
this,
I think
not
we
this week or
Mahomes has
next. Yeah.
their that game circled after all their nonsense with the doll and all the other
Yeah.
stuff. And I think we're going to have a very strong victory. So if we're doing a score prediction, I would say something like, oof, I feel like we win by a couple touchdowns. I think like 31-17.
Yeah. Yeah. They
If that, if
Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell,
yeah,
when they beat us last year on Christmas, they had a terrible game offensively. It's just that we let their defense score two touchdowns within like 10 seconds of
yeah,
game time.
yeah,
Um, and that was the difference, right?
yeah.
Like so I'm thinking that we're gonna let the play do the talk. And none of the Raiders are ever going to want to look at permanent Muppets again. So
Uh, yeah, and hopefully the whole Mahomes rules will get erased.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
honestly, he's a good player, but I feel like Max Crosby plays kind of dirty, and not like dirty
yeah,
like some players do, where they like twist ankles and pile, but like
yeah,
tries to get extra hits in and things like that.
yeah,
And I know Raiders fans sometimes like I'm not saying this about all Raiders fans, but they're like, oh yeah, Raiders are like so aggressive, and that's what it's like a jerk move to do those things. And it's like,
yeah,
honestly, I just really have a hard time respecting him as a player when he plays like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's he definitely skirts the line of what's acceptable.
yeah,
Um, and he's good. He's a really good player, and that's why he can do that, and he doesn't get called for a lot of fouls for that. But I agree with you with Max Crosby. I felt a little uncomfortable with some of the ways that he was hitting. And so Mahomes rules, like it's just not the same sport. It's not like basketball where you go mano y mano,
yeah,
1-on-one, stop the guy. Like it just doesn't work that way. That's not how football works. So
hmm
I think Antonio Pierce made a bad metaphor an idea. Now I think to a level feeling like you don't want to be scared of the Chiefs because I do agree, like some teams like the Ravens, they seem to play the Chiefs scared.
Yeah.
There are certain teams that we beat, even though they're better teams, because they play us differently than they probably should. Um,
Hmm.
I don't think it's any more the thing where you can never kick a field goal against the Chiefs kind of thing. And that's sad to say, but just with all the wide receiver injuries, just the way people have
Yeah.
adjusted, I think teams should go back to playing just more of a normal game plan against the Chiefs. Now, hopefully don't listen to my podcast and start doing that. But I think if they did that, they would have a better shot, frankly, than some of the other things that people kind of had to do when we were just rolling over everybody with Tyreek and Prime Kelsey, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And yeah, so it'll be yeah, it should be a good game in our favor. Don't like some of the way they play. It's probably a bad metaphor, like you said. Obviously, I don't necessarily think it'll be interesting if Antonio Pierce has a job there at the end of this season. In one sense,
Hopefully
you're
he
like,
gets fired after this game.
that's actually what I'm hoping too. They get destroyed so bad. Uh, though, it was nice of them to let us win a Super Bowl in their stadium.
Yeah,
So
very very hospitable.
very hospitable. Um, so let's just continue that.
Let's keep
Um,
winning in their stadium. Let's keep the good times
yeah,
rolling.
it's really funny to me when I still see Raiders posts where they're like, "Remember when we ruined the Chiefs' Christmas?" It's like, "Remember when we won a Super Bowl in your stadium in which you've never played a playoff game?" Like things like that, you know.
Yeah,
So
Raiders are definitely hurting at quarterback. I think
yeah,
Derek Carr wasn't great, but he was better than anybody they've gotten before.
yeah,
Like Jimmy Garoppolo.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I feel like the Jimmy Garoppolo trade was like what the Chiefs did with Matt Castle, where they're like, he looked
Yeah.
so good on this really good team, so let's put him on our team.
Yep.
And they're like,
Yep.
oof,
Yep. You know what? We were the Raiders at one point, and that's disgusting to
oof.
say.
That makes me kind of sick.
That makes me
But
a little sick too. Maybe we need to stop. So, yeah, don't say we were like them. They are so. No, I'm just kidding. We had dark years. There were
we had
tough
dark
times,
years. Never
but
so
I
dark
think
that we
the
were Raiders
system.
fans, but
Well, that's not. I mean, the hard thing. Like I jokingly say, yeah, just draft a quarterback, and that's how you build. But it's really hard to draft a good quarterback. Like the Bryce Young seems to have busted.
yeah.
Like
So
like there's just it's
I
really hard
mean,
to make the pick.
probably
I
no
I I
teams.
was never a Bryce Young. I probably again it's maybe a little self-serving to say I wouldn't have gone with Bryce Young. I would have gone the Texans route, CJ Stroud. But I thought his size was going to be a bigger issue than people were suggesting. Like I
Yeah,
just think you can't get away with that size in the NFL with these lines so big and stuff like that.
yeah.
You just physically can't see things. So unless he starts playing on stilts, I think he's gonna have a hard time.
All
It's
right.
a
Well, with
little mean
that
to take.
note,
Yep,
draft a quarterback named Patrick Mahomes. That's
yep.
your secret to winning.
Name the stadium Mahomes's house.
Whose house? Mahomes' house
Mahomes.
and Maato's.
Yeah, or again the
Yeah,
champion.
Kansas City champions.
The Kansas
All
City
right.
champions in Mahomes' house.
Yeah,
And then they have like a picture with him like this. They're like, why is he rocking on? It's like, no, this is just what he does to
that's what he
focus.
does.